Welcome to the chat. Today we have a speaker that most of you already know probably, Bob Carrico, and he's going to be speaking on his family business, St. Christopher's Workshop. And you can take over.
Thank you. I didn't know anybody'd be interested even.
Oh, there were a lot.
Okay. The name St. Christopher started during World War II. My mother opened an antique shop in a barn we had out there. And she named it St. Christopher's Antiques because St. Christopher is the patron saint of travel. And Bremen was a long way away from any place, so you had to travel to get there. Dad worked at Bendix during World War II, along with Jim. And we, on the weekends and so forth, we'd do stuff like rewire old stuff and make lamps out of it. And my mother was an excellent artist, and she would match lampshades to bases on hurricane lamps. The shades always got broken, and she matched those. And then, we'd buy old radio lamps, brass lamps at Tom Barr's auction, and you'd get them for $1, $2, and then strip the nickel off them, and then cut them down, rewire them, make them electrified, put a shade bracket on, and sell those in the antique shop. And all this was a learning process. I was just a kid. I was born in 1935. And I got in on all that. Dad worked at Bendix, so we worked a lot on the weekends. And through all that, yes, I would drill holes in vases and cut glass vases, and I remember one blue milk glass sugar shaker. I drilled a hole in the side of it to electrify it, this thing, and I get a big kick out of that because on Antiques Roadshow, that cut out thousands of dollars. Oh, that would have, you had to drill a hole in the bottom there, blah, 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 blah. And another thing you learn, you needed a cap on top of all sorts of bases, different size cap. So we learned how to spin metal just to make a cap. And all that took was a little maple mandrel and made a tool to run it around, and discovered that Fell's naphtha soap was the best lubricant you could use. That old Fell's naphtha soap was just fine. Okay, there was a guy, he owned Consolidated Lamp Company, and he either lived in Hammond and his factory was in Calumet City, Illinois, or vice versa. I don't remember which. Anyway, he manufactured and sold lighting fixtures for houses and everything else. And he said to Dad, I got something you're just perfect to make, and that's church fixtures. We get calls for them, and the quantity is so low that you're not going to sell over 12 of them to a church, and then the little ones and all that stuff. And you'd be just perfect for that. So he said, and when I get a call, I'll send it down to you. So the war was over. When the war got over, you could get copper again, and you could get brass tubes. So we came up with silver solder and brass tubes and rolling rolling rings to hold a cylinder, and came up with the biggest one was 12 inches in diameter and 24 inches high. And the problem with that was getting the glass cylinder. So you had to find the glass cylinders to put in that. And it was one of the most interesting things to go to. We went to Coriopolis, Pennsylvania, which is just north of Pittsburgh. Had a whole bunch of small towns around it. And this was one of them, a little bit north. And it had been a glass manufacturing center since the turn of the 19th century. And we went there and they hand blew glass cylinders, which was interesting. It was also a dying art. And so then you could make the light fixtures to the size that they had. Dad would go off for a week, come back and have, 2 months work. So just make a light fixture. Well, then while you're at church doing that, oh, hey, can you make one of these? We can. Now remember, this was in the 40s going on to the 50s. Can you make one of these and can you make one of those? So that then wrought iron and line dope became popular. And old Bob Carrico came out to work for us, and old Pop was a great blacksmith. He taught me how to force weld, and which is not a very handy thing to have nowadays, but boy, it was interesting to me. And so we went into wrought iron communion railings, wrought iron communion rail gates, wrought iron light fixtures, and that whole thing of all the wrought iron. Us kids, that would be Bill Kensinger and me, who were, around 15. Oh, Pop, we bet $1 a strike, and the way you decorated each square bars was a straight peen hammer, and you hammered down, rolled, hammered down, rolled, hammered down, and then turned it around and did that. So you got straight peen strikes on both sides. Then you took the ball peen and you hit between that. It's a boring job. Anyway, old Pop would bet a penny a strike that he could put those exactly an inch apart, and that old cuss could. He was an old man, and he could put a trot line around his bicep and snap that thing. And he was an old man. We always wondered at that. Great guy. I think his name was Fred. And Bob knew a lot about ironwork and all that stuff. And then that grew until we went into bronze and marble with Vermont Marble Company. And then we got the Italian, a guy named Aldo Tosi, owned a marble mill in Carrara, Italy, where all the marble comes from. And then you got into mosaics and just the whole gamut of building materials that go inside a church. We did a couple churches in Las Vegas. I never got to go there. Everybody else always went there. I got Atlanta, Georgia in June, putting up mosaics outdoors. And then I got Jackson, Minnesota in March, in a bit blizzard. I always got North Dakota in the wintertime and anywhere south in the summertime. And it just gradually grew and people got to know us and you did so much stuff that you just made stuff. And one of the things was for the Catholic Art Association of the United States, they first, the lady's name was Audie Bethune. She was from Long Island. And the guy in charge, his name was Chauncey Stillman. And they wanted some candlesticks, big ones and little ones. And at that time, that was the time when they had turned the altars around and the priests faced the people. So you made low tabernacles real low, so you could see it. Those big tabernacles were going out then. And you moved them, you put them all over, you put them in towers, you put them on the back wall, everything else. And so I drew up a couple of candlesticks, sent them up to Chauncey Stillman, whose address was like 3 Park Avenue, you know, real low rent place. And he just aggravated me. We went to chamfer on the rim, we went to chamfer here. Now, are you going to, is that going to be a full 1/8 of an inch thick when you spin it? With this big one. And yes, it's on a steel mandrel. So I just kept checking prices, sending them back. I thought he was a pest. And the last thing, he had a rubber stamp with all the acceptance. Last thing he sends, and he says, "Oh, incidentally, these are for the closing mass of Vatican Council II." And so that's how we got to make stuff for the Vatican. And all the small churches, just a whole wrap of them, we did churches from Port Sanilac in the thumb of Lake Michigan, just about every 15 miles up the coast of Lake Huron, up to Oscoda and a little ways beyond. And, then you'd get a job in North Dakota, big enough jobs too. And people were hollering at you in Indianapolis, you know. And you only had so many people, so you did your best to get there and get it done and do it right, come out. And then inflation started creeping in. They spent, maybe $250,000 to build a whole church. And a pretty nice church. Well, at least 10% or 15% of that went to the interior furnishing. That was all the pews and everything in. It started costing so much that the interior furnishing started to shrink. So, and there were a whole bunch of people in the business, and that eventually just choked it all. What happened with it. Meantime, I got to meet a lot of people who they were the last of their generation of real craftsmen. There was a guy that was a chalice husk chaser. That chalice has a silver cup, gold plated, and some of them have a husk around there. Well, that husk can be hammered and repossessed, and real beautiful work. And he was in Baltimore, Maryland. Nobody trained him, and So, as far as I know, nobody does that anymore. He was the last of them. And I knew a guy named Brown who was a sculptor. And he did all the gargoyles on the National Cathedral in Washington, D.C. And boy, was that interesting, because he did everything just like they did in the 1700s. So those gargoyles, they'd be about so big out of limestone. Okay, an arm in the armhole, you'd take a point and break through, big enough to pass a rope through that. Then he had a rasp, a tapered rasp with a handle with that rope going through that. The apprentice would pull that rope and make that spur turn. And you can't do it any other way to make it look medieval except doing it that way. And I'd stop down there. He'd work down in the bowels of the basement, and he had people lined up paying $6,000 a piece for those things, and he was getting to be old. He didn't know he was going to live long enough to finish them all off. And because he had one particular knack, and they all had to look the same, and you can't pass that on. And I assume, except maybe in Italy, there's people still do it that way. But he was a joy to know. There's a walked in with a stained glass man up in St. Joe, Michigan, who he did the Luther Church windows way back when. And he was a follower of Koenig. And Koenig was a real good stained glass man of the old school, like they did it in Sharp. And Walt Penn followed him and learned from his technique. And Walt told me, Walt was an Irishman, and he said he had a German instructor who would pick up his stained glass panel, look at it and say, you got something wrong there, and just drop it on the floor. They were a bunch of mean old bastards. But everything was done correctly when they got done with it. So. And I don't know what else. We did several things around town here.
Lights of Salem Church, or the Methodist Church came from there.
Oh, really? Okay, yeah. Which one was that? We did. Okay, this one. Okay, all right. Okay.
Did you get into the woodworking of the altars, Bob, and that?
Oh yeah. Yeah, you about that too. I did a military school in Watertown, Wisconsin. It was all walnut, hand rubbed community drill. Just perfect when I put it in, and I stopped back there. About 6 months later, and all those brass buttons on the middle, those kids, it looked like somebody took a hatchet to that. And that lime dope from back in the 50s, I bought the liming stuff from Sherwin-Williams, and it was like paste wood, rubbed it on, and put the finish on. And over the years, I'd stop into some of those churches when they were getting on 20 years old and all that stuff. And that daggone stuff turned pink. I tiptoed out. Didn't say hello. And then some of them didn't. So I finally asked, what are you doing to your wood walls and the altars and all that? It came from furniture polish. When they used the paste polish on that, it didn't turn. Wherever the spray on furniture polish, something in that turned that to pink as all get out.
Did you make the stained glass out here?
Just a little bit. It was, stained glass is such a manufacturing process that it's kind of fun to do. But I always, Bill Reinhardt in Winona, Minnesota, I always did him. Or when I did the remodel thing on St. Joe County Courthouse, the old courthouse, I just went down City Glass and had them do it. And stained glass, it's fun to design. But after you get it all put together, these guys are all nuts. Everybody's nuts. And they all of them have their own recipe, secret recipe of what they fill it in with. The cane comes over the glass. That has to be filled with a filler, or it will collapse. That's one of the things that holds it all together. And I never did get those guys, any of those guys, to confess what their secret formula was for putting that in. And it was so different from what you do, what we were doing, that it just doesn't fit. And those guys were professionals. I had them do a window for Brown House for Walton. And Melville owned it. And those guys do so many Blessed Virgins, Sacred Heart of Jesus, St. Joe, that when they get something else, like a drinking scene in a German tavern, they just go absolutely bonkers over, we're doing something else. So that was fun.
One of Art's favorite stories was the designing of the canopy up at, I think it's one in Monroe Seminary up in Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Came to you with the description of what he wanted. And we put it together. And you said, that's fine, but what are you gonna hang it on? Because it would have been several thousand pounds the way he wanted it.
Well,
and you had to, revamp it and.
Well, we ended up making it out of aluminum.
And coating it and so forth.
Then you had to go drill through the roof. That daggone roof's that thick.
But you got the biggest kick out of that because you said, oh, that's fine, that's beautiful and everything, but what are you gonna hang it on?
Yeah. Yeah, that Memorial Seminary had an altar, one solid block. The first one I ever did weighed 12 tons, one piece. And so I went to Brother Borromeo over there. He had been there for years and years. He ran the powerhouse. And I said, I got a problem. I got a 12-ton, blah, 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 telling the whole thing. You never saw anybody light it up. He got to play with his railroad. They had their own railroad. They had their own steam engines, electric nowadays. And he got to go over to the New York Central Yards and pick this up And he put it on the siding there at Notre Dame, and all we had to do was unload it and then get it up to the second story and install it. He was just happy. He got to play with these railroads. He got to shut off streets, fly down streets, and boy, everybody bent over backwards for him.
At the peak, how many people did you employ?
Well, we had 35 people at one time.
35.
Yeah.
I know you had a truck that you delivered because we have a picture that we put in the calendar showing
Okay, yeah.
the workshop.
Yeah.
So you made the,
That was an old rib-sided strict trailer, and we had an old straight six international tractor, and everything was good because the daggone thing would sit for 5 months, and then you'd fire it up and just run the wheels off of it for 2, 3, 4 weeks, and I got my education of driving a semi on the roads and keeping equipment going.
Could you talk about your catalogs? We've got the catalogs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
Did you put those out regularly or
I think
occasionally?
we put out 3 of them. I did them with Mossberg Printing. Mossberg Printing in South Bend was a great bunch of guys. Oh, my dad patented this. It's a lunette. Okay, this is a monstrance or an ostensorium. What you do for benediction, you put a host in the center part, and then you bless the people with this ostensorium. Okay. Somebody just has the mark cornered because they make a real great lunette. The lunette is what holds the host. It's hinged, bevel glass, beautiful. And gosh, they were charging $125 a piece for those. They would make the hole and slip it in. Dad came up with this gadget, which is a magnetic lunette. And you put the host in here and you have a permanent magnet in this rear piece. And it all clicks together, and then you have a steel ring back there and you put it in the monster, thus cutting out the people that had the quarter on that. And he called Gene Knobloch. Gene Knobloch was an old man from South Bend, and just in the phone book it said attorney, and then down at the bottom it said patent attorney. And so Dad goes over and goes, I have a lunette. And what's a lunette? So he had to explain what this thing was for and all about. Well, Gene said, I never heard of it. He put that in. Oh, I made a drawing of the thing. No, that's not good for the patent office. You got it. So, by golly, Gene said, I haven't had a patent go through on the first try since I'm 25 years old. And yours went through on the first try, so Dad got a patent on that thing. That's Ted Teeter, that's me and Bill Kensinger. Bill died when he was 26. And that's Dad. Well, that was a long time ago. There's Frank Hunt.
Did you have identification marks that you put on?
No.
Nothing, huh? So if you find a piece you can't look and see.
I'd be the only verification of that.
Go to the house of
Some
workers.
pieces I don't want to identify.
Well, my house has a bunch.
Oh, you do?
It goes back to yours, when we moved back here in the early '80s, we would, a lot of times, go out on Sunday afternoon and visit around some places south end. One day we went out to Monroe Seminary. And we were being shown around, and everything. We got to the big brass doors there, bronze doors, bronze, I don't know.
Yeah.
Whatever they are. They had to be buffed. And Art's looking at him, and he's telling us all about it, and everything. And Art starts picking out little points on the doors, that were, not 100% perfect, You could see the guy just kind of bristling a little bit till Art finally told him, how do I know where all those are? I put them there. Because he's the one that buffed those doors. But you could just see this guy was really getting about irritated, who are you to be picking apart our doors,
Okay, thank you very much, Bob. We appreciate it.
Well, you're quite welcome.
Thank you all for coming.
It was fun. Yes, thank you.
It was very nice.
Thank you for